Hello, everybody out there in Twitch. I'm Carlos A.S. Lising. I'm lead designer and owner of Casl Entertainment, and this is our 10th episode of caslTawk. For this episode, caslTawk is very special because I've got three of my dearest friends in our community with us tonight, and I'm going to introduce them one by one over here, just below us. Over here on my left, this is the inimitable Chet Minton. Chet Minton, how you doing, my brother?
Doing great. Awesome, brother.
Good to see you, man. Good to see you. Yeah. Over here in our middle, this is Jayde Hilliard-Simpson. Jade, how you doing?
Doing great. How are you?
Oh, that good, man. It's so great to see you. I get to see you so infrequently that it's really a pleasure to get a chance to actually meet and interact. I always enjoy it.
It's great to be here.
Over here on my right, that is Daniel Govar. Dan, how you doing, buddy?
Hello. How are you?
Good, man. Dan, everybody down here, you know the faces, you know the names attached to Casl Entertainment. I want to tell you guys a little bit about them before I get them to all introduce themselves, all right? Chet Minton over here, as you guys probably have seen, those of you who are part of the Casl Entertainment Patreon, he's responsible for doing the character sheet work for Casl Entertainment's Patreon. He also is responsible for doing some of our most beloved covers. Right now, I know that we're getting a lot of great responses from our newest book, which is Squaring the Circle. He did the cover for that, which we'll be getting into later. But Chet's also done art for companies like RPG Crate and Art of the Genre, Fireside Creations, and Two Kings Games. So Chet you're an old fool from the old school, brother. You're out here doing it. And
yeah, brother. Old school.
I think that's awesome, man. Chet's also a great gamer, and he's involved in my good friend Timothy Connolly's game right now. We could talk about that maybe a little bit later, too.
Sure.
In the middle of our screen, we have Jayde Hilliard-Simpson. Jade is an acclaimed illustrator. She's a lead art director for Casl Entertainment, and she has that distinction because she was the one who really was my first artist. I started this off with Jade, and I like to think that I would not be here as Casl Entertainment would not be thriving as a company. We wouldn't be well respected if it wasn't for your art, Jade. You put us on the map. So, so your
I'm glad to do the work. I mean, you're awesome to work for.
Oh, thank you so much. But your talent is really what I want to talk about tonight because the way you inform our products is amazing. Jade is also one of the core members of the Changeling Art Collective, which we'll talk about a little bit later. She's got a BA in fine art from the University of Texas Arlington. You're also the primary artist on a major project of mine that's coming up, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. It's like the worst kept secret in gaming, but I'm going to throw it out there here in a few. And over on our right, we have Dan Govar. Dan is probably... I knew Dan before any of you. I knew any of you because I used to be in the hobby of collecting comic art. And Dan and I, he was one of the artists I identified as somebody I really wanted stuff from back in the day. Dan does all kinds of cool stuff from co-founding a Tolkien website called ThereandBackAgain.net, which was featured in places like Entertainment Weekly and TV Guide. I mean, how cool is that? And you've worked on properties for DC and Marvel Comics. You've published a children's book, an art book, a graphic novel. You've done adventure modules and covers for us. I mean, you've done just about everything there is to do out there, man. So having you associated with our company, it gives us a certain cachet. And you really, when you put stuff on our pages, I know our readers are really going to respond to it. I know that they're just going to be blown away every time I get something from you. So I couldn't be more pleased to have you with us tonight, telling us about your experiences and stuff like that. So now that everybody's been introduced, okay, I want to get a chance to tell you a little bit about what our artists are doing right now, okay? And I'm going to start over here from our left, and we're going to go to the right, okay? Over here on our... Hey, thanks, Scottish Jeff. I really appreciate you signing up with us, buddy. That's our good friend Jeff Mackey over there in the corner, who just subscribed to us, so thank you very much. going over here from in the top right-hand corner of the Twitch screen, you'll see that we've got our Castle Entertainment logo. Well, that is going to be replaced as I talk with everybody, all these artists, because we have a lot of art here to display for them. But first, let's talk about Chet Minton. Chet, as you can see in the middle of our screen, I just flashed our graphic. You can follow him at www.longhairstudios.com. Chet is... Chet, you've done, like I said, you've done so much for different companies out there, and I know a lot of the people that watch me are fellow game designers. Maybe you're interested in commissions for your characters and things like that. This is the guy to go to. Chet is a monster as far as project completion goes. He has never failed me once to be on time with a project. He always brings the goods. He is one of the reasons that particular project I have him on, which is the Patreon project. It's a monthly thing, so it's very time sensitive. It's a very demanding project, and I chose him because I knew that he could get it done every single time. We'll go right up in the middle. Now we got Jade coming up, and you can see over here that we can follow Jayde Hilliard-Simpson over at www.jadehilliard.com. Okay, although you also do a lot of stuff for Etsy, Jade. What could you tell everybody about the Etsy site that you run?
Yeah, I've got a couple of T-shirt designs. I've got original paintings and drawings and art prints, and hopefully, I'm trying to plan on getting some stickers done soon, because those seem to be pretty popular.
Jade, it's funny you should mention T-shirts, because everybody out there knows that I'm well known for wearing my Castle Entertainment T-shirt everywhere I go, especially on this show, right? Well, today is the first ever Castle Entertainment stuff that I've ever done without a Castle Entertainment T-shirt, because today we are repping Chet Minton right over here, and one of his pieces of art on my shirt right over here.
It's so cool.
But wait, that's not all, because I'm also repping Jayde Hilliard-Simpson underneath it right over here. Jade, that's Jade's awesome artwork that she's done called Wolf and Raven, and she's allowed us to use that as Castle Entertainment part of our aesthetic, so that's always really cool. Jade is finally... See, little did everyone know out there that they were also going to get a strip show along with this interview. But Jade over there in our top corner, you'll see that she's also a member of the Changeling Artist Collective. And the Changeling Artist Collective is a group of artists that I'm dear friends with. You've seen a lot of them contribute to different Castle Entertainment projects. This is where I've been getting a lot of my artists from. It's kind of like a recruitment station for me for artists, and the people I've gotten from there have never failed me. So I just want everybody to know out there, for those of you who are looking for art, you're looking for cool artists to render your different products and things like that, these are the people to go to. And finally, over here, we'll have Daniel Govar. Now, Dan, I've got more stuff for you than anybody else over here, okay? Over there in the middle of our screen, you can see you can follow Daniel Govar at www.danielgovar.com, okay? Now, Dan, over here in the Twitch screen, you're going to see, first of all, a book. The book is called Daily Sketches #1, okay? Could you please tell the fans out there and the people that are watching a little bit about Daily Sketches?
Yeah, for the most part, all the daily sketches are pieces that I do as warm-ups each morning. I spend about an hour to an hour and a half honestly drawing whatever comes to mind. Most of the time it's stuff that's not necessarily something that I'm working on for a project or an editor, or it's something that, I kind of had an idea a couple of days ago and just kind of want to get it out. Mm-hmm. So yeah, the book itself is a collection of 200 of my favorite sort of daily warm-ups.
For those of you who are... I'm sorry, go ahead, please, Dan.
No, that's all right. I was just going to say that it literally just came out about a month ago, so I've been frantically drawing inside of it, doing remarks in the front cover.
He's probably doing them right now in between us all chatting.
I actually am, funny enough.
I knew it. I knew it. Dan,
I only have 200 to do, so it's, yeah.
For those of you guys who don't know much about Daniel. He's also a monster creator. He's possibly one of the most prolific artists I know. You do so much cool stuff all the time. And if you're interested in getting a Daily Sketches #1, I was part of the Kickstarter that funded it, so I'm already in there. But you can see where you can buy it there on danielgovar.bigcartel.com over there. You just follow that, and you'll see the icon, and you can see all the other cool stuff that he has. But I wanted to talk about Daily Sketches because it's new. And finally, there's another project that you're doing right now that I wanted to bring up, and that would be right over here, Tuskers. Okay, now Tuskers you can get at www.indiegogo.com/projects/Tuskers. Tell us a little bit about it, man.
It's a project that writers for television and film kind of approached me. A friend of mine, Mark Gaffin, sent me a note saying, "Hey, look, I'm looking for somebody to kind of illustrate a story of mine, and you're the first person. You were kind of my first choice. I figure you're probably going to pass because of how long it is, and it's a 132-page graphic novel about elephant poaching in Africa." And my initial thought was elephant poaching in Africa. And my initial thought was my kid poaching in Africa. Yeah, and we did it all in watercolor.
Uh-huh.
So pretty much the entire story is done in watercolor format.
It's absolutely beautiful. If you follow the link up there, you can see examples from the book that are on his website, and man, they're breathtaking. Daniel, you're one of the. I'm doing for those of you out there who don't know, I'm doing a charity fundraiser for Cheetah Conservation Fund coming up soon, probably in January. We keep pushing it back because of COVID. I want to make sure that everyone has a chance to contribute if they can. But Daniel, Tuskers and things like that made you my first choice for animals, which is why I tabbed you for that project. I saw that and I was like, this is the guy I need to have rendering all these cool animals and stuff like that for me.
It's been tough fun.
Thank you so much. Okay.
Big cat.
I want to hit everybody with some topics over here, and because I want everybody out there in the crowd to get to know a little bit about the way you guys tend to see art, the way you guys, you'll notice that the topic of today's discussion is called Building the Aesthetic, all right? And the reason why we call it Building the Aesthetic is because you guys helped design the aesthetic for Castle Entertainment, all right? You're the ones who created what we look like. And I'd like everybody to know a little bit more about how you guys create the general, how a world will look through your different contributions to art and things like that, okay? Now, we all know that art's probably the most driving force in the RPG genre, okay? We've got all the words and the great words from Gary and people like myself, but not only does art shape what we're understanding to be possible, you know, giving us visualizations of various heroes and monsters and spells and magic items, but it's literally create a modern mythology through inspiring people like myself and helping globally everyone access like an inner sense of wonder. In particular, all of you have had a hand in contributing to this global, this consensual kind of zeitgeist of art, all right? I want to talk a little bit about your backgrounds, about what shaped you guys and how you were able to, what made you artists and the things you love and what inspires and drives you. And I'd like to begin with Chet over here, okay? Could you tell us a little bit about your background, man?
Okay, so for as long as I can remember, I've been doing art. Some of the first pictures of me as a little kid was just me drawing, actually. So I've been doing it my whole life. So I guess I was just naturally born as an artist. You know, obviously I've developed. I was really into comic books. I was really into fantasy, sci-fi. I think one of the biggest influences on me was my mother, who was into fantasy and science fiction. And she took me to great things like Star Wars and all these different types of movies. Comic books were a huge influence. And then I discovered D&D. I went over to a friend's house, and his older brother was playing D&D with his friends, and we wanted to know everything. So I was just going through all these books, and I was like, oh my God, Jeff G is my God. Errol Otis is so cool. I'm like, I couldn't believe it. And from there, it was just a love affair with D&D. So my art and D&D have always been really combined as a hybrid, really.
Right.
So, yeah.
Well, how about you, Jade? Where did you come from as an artist? What shaped you, and what kind of educational background do you have in art? All that good stuff.
Also, with me, my mother was also a really huge influence because she's an artist, and it just seemed natural, just age. It's just like what I did. And growing up, mainly for me, it was video games and anime.
Okay.
So like the Final Fantasy series and Sailor Moon, Dragon Ball, all that stuff. It really shaped everything. Even though right now I don't think you really look at it and see that influence, but I mean, it created a monster. So
I see it mostly in your line weight, and when I come up, and we'll talk about that in when we start going a little bit more in depth about things that inspired you, because I have some graphics I want to show. There's some things about when I see your art, and I looked at some of the things that you sent me for inspiration. I was like, okay, I see that reflection. But what about you, Daniel? What's your background? Where did you fall in love with art?
Oh man, birth. One of my mother's first, drawing, and she tells us anytime we're around people, it's horrible. She went out when I was really young. We're talking, early years. Bought me a box of crayons, but forgot to get me a coloring book to put anything in. So she left me to my own devices for like an hour. Came back to see what I'd done, and all down our hallway was this like scene that started off with like dragons fighting, robots fighting, cowboys and Indians fighting. I mean, it just kept going on and on and on. But it was only like 2 feet tall, all the way down the hall.
That's awesome. I'm noticing a theme here about moms.
Oh yeah. Hey, you know what? Moms are moms. Come on.
Yeah. We're the sum of our influences, and obviously parents are, one of our first influences. I guess we're all lucky we had great moms.
Yeah, I guess.
My formal training, though, was I have a degree in imaging and digital art from University of Maryland, which is mostly computer graphics. It's dealing with 3D modeling. That was what most of my degree was in. I had a totally different career in art. I was a creative director for a media firm for years.
Okay.
Probably 10 years. And finally just got to the point that I really missed, like, pen on paper, actually touching things and not managing other artists, but actually being, the creative force behind it.
Now, Jade, you also have a degree in art. Tell us a little bit about where that came from and what your experiences were with that.
My art degree was in fine. There's a lot of painting and stuff, and it really strayed from the illustration work, and I kind of really butt heads with my main painting professor a lot because of it. But I also had some really awesome drawing instructors, and I did a secondary in metalsmithing also. So while I haven't had a shop for a while to be able to do any producing of metalwork, it's something I hope to get back into eventually. But I learned a lot from it, and I think it's really helped sculpt things.
Never put 2 and 2 together here. When you were designing the sword for Fenya back in the day, when we were doing that, I never really realized that you were probably drawing on your metalwork background there a little bit. It's probably very realistic, isn't it?
I actually did for a couple of years an internship with a forge in Dallas.
Wow.
Produced blades and armor. And actually right now, one of our other businesses is, it's all retail right now, but we sell swords, knives, and, all that fun stuff. Wow. So it's something that we're really passionate about. I'm really passionate about and have been for a very long time.
That's awesome. And now I understand a lot more. A lot more makes sense now to me. I always thought that I didn't realize that. I guess I never put 2 and 2 together and realized that your background was so heavy into the metalwork thing. Now, Chet, you're also you're not classically trained at all, though, are you?
I went to college several times. I first I studied graphic design and illustration, and I left school, went to the Army. Then when I got out of the full-time National Guard, I went back to school. And I actually went back for fine arts. So I studied oil painting, and then I actually went into sculpture for quite some time. And then I kind of did a full circle and just came right back to pen and ink, illustration, things related to Dungeons and Dragons, comic book type artwork, and just went from there. And I've also worked many years in lithography, commercial lithography and printing. So I got a lot of experience not only working on equipment, printing the different various things, but also working in pre-press and learned a lot about layouts and design and that type of field as well.
Now that I know this, I'm kicking myself for not having you around earlier, because I could have drawn upon a lot of your printing experience. Man, I took my lumps as a printer early in the Castle Entertainment experience. Boy, that's
I think everyone does.
Boy, it was brutal. I looked at some of the earlier Castle Entertainment products as far as the stuff that I don't really release, some of the aesthetic behind it, and I'm just embarrassed. It's like, oh, I wish I could have a do-over on that one. But as far as your, I'm going to show some of the, every one of you artists mentioned that, some of the things that you're inspired by. I'm going to put up some graphics in the top corner of the Twitch here, all right? And I want to hear the person that was inspired by it, but I also want to hear the rest of the panel, what they think about some of these pieces of art, okay? And we're going to start over here with something that Chet sent me, okay? Now, Chet, you mentioned that you really were inspired a lot by some of the old D&D artists. And the first one I want to pull up is one that, when you put this up, this was meat and drink to me, because it's one of my all-time absolute... Hey, there's Benchley Dale DM. Tim Connolly's on there. Chat backing you, as was
a dungeon master.
Yes, so was our master. I saw so was our friend Jeff McKay was over there as well, so that was cool. And we also have another artist out there. I don't know if any of you know Anna Meyer, who does the art, the great cartography for the World of Greyhawk stuff right now. So yeah, she's an artist in her own right too. So just so. Giving everybody out there a shout out. But Chet, you mentioned this art, and this was something that really blew me away back from the day, okay? And this was the art from Deities and Demigods done by Jim Roslov for Thor, in which Thor, you can see him with Mjolnir there, banging on the head of a dragon. I mean, it's absolutely gorgeous. Tell me a little bit about what your thoughts were when you saw that piece and why it resonated with you.
Well, when I first, first of all, the Demigods and Demigods book is now celebrating its 40th anniversary, which is great. It's a great book, and it's one of my very go-to books for a lot of the D&D art. I was just, when I was a young guy looking at this artwork, Jeff D., Jim Roslov, a lot of these artists, I was overblown, and I spent hours every day just copying and trying to learn how to draw just like them. And Nordic mythology is just ingrained in me anyway. I love the mythology. I love all mythologies, but the Nordic mythologies just speak to me. And that full page picture, it's an iconic, classic picture.
Jade, what do you think when you see that picture? What stands out to you? What part of the art resonates with you?
I'm not seeing it on my screen.
I started to say, can you post it up on the Zoom?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. Let me pull it up. Let's do a quick screen share on Zoom for that. Give me just a moment here. I didn't expect that you guys wouldn't be able to see it. That's a little bit different for me.
Yeah, we actually only see ourselves and you.
Okay, you're not.
I don't have the open Twitch channel myself right at the moment.
Okay, well, in that case, we'll go ahead.
I didn't put it on because of the reverb that usually.
That's okay. That's okay. We'll then in that particular case, we'll go ahead and we'll skip that component of the show. I don't really want I don't want to confuse the viewers too much on that note. But Jade, we'll talk about. Actually, we'll stick with Chet on this then. In that particular case, you'll notice over here that's the Errol Otis DeCampus picture out there. Everybody who's watching, tell me a little bit about that piece from Errol Otis. The things that inspired you about that, the things you love about that piece.
Well, when I was younger, I was actually a little scared of his artwork. It freaked me out. It made me a little bit uncomfortable. And it's that kind of edge that I think really works with his art. he's totally in a different class with all the different artists. I mean, each one brings their own thing to the table. But his use of action, his characters, usually the adventurers that he does, they look tough, but compared to the monsters that they encounter, they're definitely out of their league, but they're still holding, the epic ground, standing their ground, and just the unique characters and monsters that he's created, even though they may be staples in D&D, they're brought really to life in different ways that,
right.
Just excite me as an artist.
Yeah, I remember seeing Otis's stuff, and I wasn't really, I can't say I was scared per se, but I do remember thinking to myself that the organic kind of line work that he uses, the kind of it's got a very Lovecraftian sort of a vibe where everything. I remember John Byrne, the great comic artist, saying that nothing is straight in nature. Everything is bent a little bit, and I remember thinking to myself that that was something about Otis's work that really resonated with me, is that it was so very non-linear, and I really liked that about it. Everybody, I've decided what I would do to solve this problem is on our our Facebook chat. I've put up the art. I see that Jade and Daniel have seen it right now that we're talking about. Okay?
Yeah, I'm looking at it.
Now, the first piece that we'll talk about over there is the Roslov Thor. Okay, the one that's on the left.
I love that piece so much. Yeah.
What do you got, Daniel? What stands out about it when you look at it? What's the first thing that grabs you?
Movement. So with comic art, and I do it all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of live and breathe it, and it's crazy how your point of view and where your eye goes immediately. He does such a great job of framing Thor's head in that coil of the dragon, and then immediately your eye goes right where Mjolnir is smacking the dragon's head. He guided that entire thing. The entire layout is orchestrated.
I'm interested to know this because as a non-artist myself, my eye goes to a certain place immediately on that page. Where is your eye being drawn?
That's the thing. There's a guiding point. There's a point where your eye is caught, which is on Thor's head.
Okay.
Right after that, your eye then moves around the piece, and it usually ends on the dragon being smacked in the head.
Mm-hmm. Now, Jade, what do you think when you look? No, I'm sorry. Go ahead, please. Daniel, finish your thought.
No, I was just going to say that's where my eye goes immediately.
Okay, Jade, tell me what you think when you see that piece. What immediately stands out to you and grabs you?
Daniel said, we're first focused on the piece, and then it follows around to the head of the monster where he's smacking him with the hammer. But also, I circle back around. I'm looking at the knotwork. Fascinated by this stuff, especially since I started working on Fireland, and I'm looking at it, and I get pictures and images in my mind of the carvings, like the stage church and stuff that you see, and looking at how they involve the historical context with the way that they're doing their storytelling. It's just really awesome.
Where does your eye land on that piece first? Like Daniel at the head of Thor?
Yeah.
Huh. That's interesting because as a writer, I don't know why, or just as a non-artist, as a layman, my eye, when I see that picture and when I first saw that picture, immediately went to the hammer. And the reason I say that is because I remember reading the article before I saw the picture, and I thought to myself, what does Mjolnir actually look like? And so my eye went right to that spot. So I guess the words informed me more than anything else. So I think that's really cool how it shaped the different our different elements here kind of shape the way your eyes go. Now, the second piece that he was talking about is this piece, the second one that you see there, the green piece. And that is done by Errol Otis. It's the cover for Palace of the Silver Princess. And the monster is called a Decampus. I'll start with you this time, Jade. Tell me a little bit about what you think when you see this piece. What do you like about it? If there's something you don't like about it, mention it.
And this is some of this really classic artwork that I remember growing up with and being really fascinated by and saying, I want to do stuff like this. It's got the bright, bold colors and it's got the dynamic composition, and that's just what gnarly beats. I love it. This is awesome. It's great.
Is there anything technique-wise that stands out to you in specific?
The composition, I really like how they use the color to really set the depth, the whole depth. He's got the light blue going down, it fades into this dark gradient, and you see the lighting coming up. It really makes for some really epic storytelling.
Okay. Daniel, tell me a little bit about this piece. What do you think when you see it? What resonates with it about you?
I'm a big lighting nut. So I love when the lighting is done really well. And this one has like great underlighting on the monster and great underlighting on the figure. I just felt like they hit the nail on the head with that.
I apologize for making you do a bunch of black and whites then here with our last project.
Black and white is great, dude. Black and white is an exercise in light. That's what it is.
Yeah, there's when I look at this piece, the first thing that stands out to me when I see it is Jade hit it, is the shading. I look at the bottom of that piece, at the bottom underneath the monster, and I can see that gradient that she was mentioning about the shading, and there's so many colors in there. And as a person who doesn't really understand color theory as well as you artists do, I'm amazed how like you'll throw orange in there and get pink. Or you'll throw something this really seeming deceptive. I remember seeing a friend of mine who's an artist throwing green highlights in a red-haired woman's hair. And I was like, no, don't do that. You're going to... What the hell just happened? What type of sorcery was that?
Have you ever watched the artist Brian Stelfree's work?
Brian is he's one of my main dudes. I love Brian.
He is insane. He will start off a face using like a bright green and paint the whole face in bright green, and the whole time you're thinking, what? How is he going to pull this out? And by the end of it, it's all crazy underpainting that he's doing just to set up the tonal range, and it's crazy how he is the smartest when it comes to color theory of any painter I've seen.
I have a funny story about him, Dan. When I came, the time that you and I talked at the hotel at Heroes Con, I had a dinner with Stelfreeze before the show. He had a bunch of our friends. And we were sitting, my wife and I were sitting right across the table from Brian. And he was doing art for this little girl, this like 8-year-old girl that was there. And he was just black and white art and some crayon. And Amanda and I just sat there and looked at each other like, this guy is, I'm watching Morton Kanan at work right now. This guy is unbelievable.
Yeah. No, he's amazing.
I was lucky to get commission from him that day too. I hate to say this, it's black and white, but oh my God, he's so good. So some of the comments we're getting here in the Twitch feed, by the way, our buddy Jeff McKay is saying that great piece of art about the Roslov, right on the nose, organic and Lovecraftian about the Otis piece. We've got Tim Connolly mentioning he loves the bearded axe in the art, and Ryan reminds him of Death Dealer's axe from Frazetta. Thank you. So yeah, a lot of cool stuff being said over there. Chet, we're going to move away from you.
Oh, okay.
No, go ahead. Go, please. Continue.
I was going to say, building on what Dan was talking about, the underlining, it really also goes with the composition. The perspective and the forced perspective of the crooked pillars, they're not really in perspective, true proportion or perspective. So you're really just looking up at this beast, and you're like underneath this guy with this axe, and you really get a sense of these tentacles just flowing all over the place, and it's just, the composition is incredible, I think.
I have never noticed that the pillars were in perspective before until just now. Huh. That's actually a revelation for me on that. Jade, I'm going to move over to your art that you sent me, okay? And right over here in the middle of our Twitch screen, and those of you guys who don't have Twitch up, you just received it in Facebook. This is a piece from Yoshitaka Amano, who does all the Final Fantasy stuff, all the Secrets of Mana artwork. This is a piece from him called from the cover of Secrets of Mana. Jade, tell me about what you love about this piece, what inspires you, what makes it one of your favorites.
I'm not sure. That's not the same piece I sent you for Yoshitaka Amano.
Okay,
but I sent in my favorite video game for the RPG inspiration, what shaped it. One of the huge video games was Secret of Mana. And not just for the cover image, but for the whole world that video had. It was geographically very diverse with all the stages and stuff, and it really kept my mind going, which is kind of hard to trade that with a still image.
When I look at that Secrets of Mana piece, the first thing that I see that just blows me away is the detail that's in it. The level of detail is absolutely unreal in that. Chet, what do you think of when you see that Secret of Mana piece?
Well, it's you've got two complementary colors, the green and the red. The children really pop. I also like how you can see what's called like a banding effect. So it's almost like if you're looking at a theatrical setup on a stage, you see the different layers, these horizontal layers, bringing you back. And then you have this huge forest filled with those details. The texture art in there is incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a great word for it. Is texture. It feels tangible. It feels like I could reach out and I could run my fingers across that, like Braille, and feel it. Daniel, what do you see when you're looking at that? What inspires you? What do you pick out?
I'm with Chet. The two things that strike me immediately are the textures and the depth. He has this way of putting foreground, middle ground, background. You can literally see all the layers, and it just keeps going on. And a lot of that is done with the detailing. The stuff in the foreground is very intricate. The background gets, slightly less intricate the deeper you go, especially by the roots of the tree. But all of that creates that depth.
I'm gonna pull up another picture that Jade sent.
I'm a big fan.
This one's probably more relevant to what we're talking about, and that is, everybody that's out there on Twitch is seeing it right now, but I just shared it with you guys as well. Mm-hmm. This is a piece. This piece right over here is the other Amano piece right over here. I believe that's from Final Fantasy VII. Jade, is that correct?
Yes. With Cloud 13.
Okay. Tell me about what inspires you about this piece. What do you love about it?
A lot with the aesthetics is just like we discussed the Secret of Mana piece. There's a whole world built right here, and it's this one's also dramatic. The colors, you can see the color contrast between the red just in the other piece and this one, and the lizard right up here. I mean, that's really interesting detail. I just kind of want to step into that world and explore and meet.
I had never noticed that before, that detail in there. That's really cool. Chet, what do you think of when you see this?
Well, he has this framework all the way around the edge. It's very monochromatic, but it's filled with all these little details, which just really invite you. Just like the top right corner, the lizard right there, coming in, and it's like a return from depth. It's bringing you right back into the pace. And then, of course, you come right around the whole framework all the way to the landscape in the background, almost to the top left. And then that negative space of the sky brings you right back to the figure, which is obviously the catalyst of the piece, but there's a lot going on. It's a nice composition that keeps bringing you around.
Daniel, your thoughts?
Immediately, the first thought I had was, this looks like Sandman. Didn't he do something for Sandman?
I believe he did do something for Sandman.
He did, yeah. And the first thought I had was, hey, it's that Sandman guy. The other thing that just strikes me is I love the real simplistic colors. I like how the palette is like, 3 colors, that's it.
Tim Connolly just mentions, he goes, I dig the hairstyle.
Yeah.
But Daniel, you just hit on what I was going to bring up about this, is for those of you guys who have read out there Frank Miller's Sin City, what he'll do is he'll do all black and white noir stuff, except he'll use one thematic color to kind of tie everything together. And I see that technique a little bit in this piece. Again, this is my simplistic view as a non-artist. But I see that used to great effect here. And it really, not only does it bring my eye to Red 13, but it also seems to give dimension to Cloud ahead of him. Is there any kind of validity to that? Do you guys see the same things?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, the principal red there is the power spot. Mm-hmm. Of color, and it is touched upon in that monochromatic framework around it. It's important. It has more detail in the edging than the figure and the creature next to it. But the power of the colors and that black and the red really hold a solid catalyst right there.
Now, Jade, something we didn't mention before about this. We talked a bit about that you love the piece, but what about him shaped? What about Amano? That when you were seeing him, what about his work informed your artwork? What did he change in you? What did he actually? Where can we see his influences in your stuff?
Right now, it's not as heavy as an influence quite as much as it to be, but it's something I always go back to just for inspiration, and I like to include the tiny details. And this one does it as a good representation of his fabric work. If you see some of his costumes, and I think he actually did an exhibit a few years ago where he did custom designed kimono fabrics.
Oh, man.
The level of details and just the aesthetic and the quality of design I love it.
The Japanese component of my heritage, the heartbeat just skipped a little bit when you said that. Just so you know, Jade, I'm going to go back to this piece a little bit later, because we often say as artists and as writers and things that sometimes we don't analyze our own styles very well. I'm going to show you where I see his influence in your work. We'll call this back here a little bit later. So guys, don't let me forget to bring this up. Because I can see myself forgetting stuff very easily in this chat because I'm having so much fun with this. Let's see. Going over from Amana, we have... Actually, no. I'll do Daniel's first. Daniel, the piece that we shared with him is a piece... this is by Brian Froud, and it's called Fairies. Okay, I'd like... tell me a little bit about the piece. What inspires you about it?
Oh, man. Again, I'm going back to the crazy detail, the depth, the usually like blue, for instance, is usually a color that you use in color theory to push things back. And in this, it's actually bringing things forward. He kind of turns it on its head, which, it's amazing. I'm a watercolor guy, as you know, and I love watercolor, and he's a watercolor nut. Half of this piece was done in watercolor, the other half was in acrylics and gouache, and I'm just like in awe of all of the intricate details that he was able to pull out using watercolor. It's just phenomenal. I actually have a giant version of this hanging in my house. It's a print in heat clay. That's I think they only made like 30 of them, and it's kind of like my prized print that I put right above my studio work.
Okay. How do you feel that he inspired your work?
Oh man, I think that one of the first times I really kind of took watercolor seriously was reading through he and Alan Lee's Fairy book. It's a really old book now, but when it first came out, I remember flipping through it thinking, oh gosh, I couldn't see where the two artists. I could start to tell which artist did which pieces, but the watercolor work between the two of them was just so phenomenal. I was astounded. I almost put an Alan Lee piece up here too. That was the point. I was really trying to choose which one, and I was like, well, that one's hanging behind. So there you go.
Chet, when you see the Sprout piece, tell me what you think. Where does your eye go? What do you admire about it?
I love the softness of the sepia. There's so much detail, but there's that soft browns and tans in there. And then, as Dan mentioned, that blue just pops right out. And those fairy wings in the foreground, the transparent, luminescent, there's that glow in there. The sparkles of the will-o-wisp type tails there, they just pop. And then that red log thing that the blue guy is carrying, that's just that pop of color right in the center. The great thing about Froud is the depth and the emotion that he carries in these faces, and these aren't beautiful faces. These are distorted fairies. There's the troll, fae kind of influences there. But look at those hands. Look at the detail in the vein work and just the elongation of those fingers. They're just so great. They're awesome.
As soon as you said that, Daniel reached out and adjusted his camera, and I thought you were talking about his hands.
Oh, yeah. Well,
I was like, yeah, look at those hands.
Dan has beautiful hands, too. On the side, I'm sure he's a hand model.
I'm thinking to myself, where's he going with this? But I love it. Chet, do you feel like Froud, I hear that you're familiar with the work. Did he inspire you at all?
Oh, definitely. And Alan Lee. I mean, they're two demigods, obviously. Their pencil work, their watercolor and wash work, I mean, they're legends. And that drives me to like Charles Vess and artists like that. I mean, I think it's hard for any one of us to just say, oh, I only have a couple influences here and there. There are just so many great fantasy artists out there. We could be here all day.
I totally agree with you. And when I think of, if you were going to tell me you weren't inspired by him, I was going to do this and say, oh, I think you were. Yeah. I was going to say, I see all that detail and all the emotion in it, and I was like, you're definitely, at least latently inspired by him. Jade, tell me a little bit about the piece.
Go ahead, Daniel. Can I say one more thing?
Yes, of course.
One of the things that I failed to mention was with Froud's work, you get a sense of every piece tells a story. And I like how you can have an entire story in one central image. And this was kind of the first kind of inkling of, wow, storytelling is important in an image, not just, conveying the picture, actually being able to tell something.
My wife has done all kinds of our stuff for how our site visually looks. My merchandise Valkyrie, Amanda, and for those of you who guys just saw that on the screen, that was our sign up thing. It's a raven that comes up, his face and he croaks. So I think that turned out so good. Daniel, I totally agree with you about that. I think that's definitely one of the things that I think it jumps out to me immediately when I see it all. Jade, what do you think?
I have this book also, and I mean, it's one of the very important books in my art book library. There's so much going on here, you get lost. And if you were to be able to step into this world, you would get lost. You would be joining the fairies. And they're all have all of their faces for personality. They're just mysterious and mischievous, and I just seem to have a thing if I could just step into this world. It seems to be my favorite type of artwork.
Yeah, they say when you step into the fairy realm that you don't come back, and I think that may be why. I think when I see that, and you made that comment, I immediately thought to myself, this is why you don't come back from the fairy realm. Is it something like that? You're right, you get lost in that kind of thing, and it just sucks you in, and half of you never wants to go back, and because of the mystery involved and everything. I think that's really salient in this. Maybe that's what resonates most to me about this piece. Now that we've gone and talked about that stuff, guys, and we've talked about your influences and stuff, I want to show everybody's art. I asked all the artists in the panel to show me the favorite piece that they've done for my company, Casl Entertainment, and I thought it would be cool to juxtapose their favorites with the stuff that they've actually contributed. And we'll start with Chet over here. The first thing that he gave me, the thing I wanted to show you that he gave me is, hold on for just a moment. Losing myself here a bit. I have to get rid of some of my windows here. But we have a little bit of what do we got here? We have a familiar in the background.
We do. She's very jealous. I'm so creepy.
That's her. That's that's our illustrious cat. Over here, this is Chet Minton's work that he did for our cover, Squaring the Circle. This is called Sword Oath that he did for us. It is, Chet, a masterpiece in my opinion. When you did this, Amanda and I opened up the email at the same time. We were both sitting there. We looked at it together, and both of us gasped. I remember that very distinctly, that we looked at that, and both of us we couldn't believe what we were looking at. I'm going to share it with you guys on Facebook here in just a moment. But tell me, Chet, a little bit about Sword Oath. Tell me about the things that brought it to life for you, that inspired you about it, things like that.
One thing about the picture is it gave me a chance to play with perspective. We have a bird's eye aerial view over and facing down on these, magnificent 7 gnomes. These warrior samurai type monk gnomes, and they're at the end of their quest, so they're worn and beaten down, but not broken. And they know that at the next moment, their next battle here, that they are going to, some of them at least, are going to die. But it's a brotherhood. It's a moment of raising their swords in honor, and they're saluting themselves, their quest, and their journey, as well as knowing that together they're going to overcome and be victorious, even if it means their death.
Wow. You just pretty much encapsulated verbally every single thing that I wanted to accomplish with that module. That is a pretty salient take on that. I've shared it now with all of our other panelists. And by the way, thank you, Tim Connolly, so much for joining us. I appreciate it, and for supporting us. Guys, we'll start with Jade. What do you think when you see that one?
When I first saw this piece, and I've seen this one before, and it blew me away. It's phenomenal. The composition, you get a whole sense of camaraderie here, and you can see all the battle scars on the guys. I mean, there's a real strong storyline going here about this, and the lighting and everything. It just blows me away.
Okay,
it's fantastic.
Daniel, when you see this bad boy, what do you think?
I love the lighting. I like the illumination towards the center with the shadows stretching out behind them.
Okay.
Awesome.
Do any of you guys, when you see this piece, because all of you guys have a background at least a little bit as gamers, okay? When you see this as gamers, tell me what you think of what kind of feelings does this inspire in you? And I'll start with you, Jade.
Mission accomplished. We survived. They're going to have great stories to tell later down the road.
Okay.
I'd like to hear their stories. Just looking at it, they've been through a lot and got a great accomplishment, victory thing going here. That's fantastic.
Okay. And Daniel, what do you think?
I feel like it's the end of the Musketeers, and they've just, it conquered, and it's, one for all and all for one. Yeah.
I particularly love this, and I think you just hit it on the head for me. And the reason I say that is, for me, I see this piece, and this was the culmination of a 4-year arc of modules that I'd written. So when I see this, and I see the way that Chet rendered it, and to me, the whole, I don't know, I guess the way I would put it is, I felt like I was at the end of my journey, too, a little bit as a creator when I saw this. I was like, wow, man, this piece that I'm looking at is something really special, and it's meaningful to me in a lot of different ways. So, Chet, I couldn't thank you enough for the way that you did this, and the way that you actually contributed to our aesthetic when you did it. I think that it was just, I couldn't have been more pleased with this. This is one of those pieces, and I get these here and there from artists where it actually just makes me gasp out loud.
Thank you.
Now, Jade, I'm going to go ahead and we're going to go with you. Okay, I'm just sharing the piece right now. A little bit of chicanery I had behind the scenes over here just now. The piece was a little bit too large for me to send on Facebook, so I just had to do a little bit of remastering it on the fly. So forgive me there. But Jade, this is your piece called Prismatic Pond and the Parliament of Ravens, okay? Now, for those of you guys who don't know, as I mentioned before, Jayde Hilliard-Simpson is the lead artist for my project Fireland that's upcoming. Fireland is going to be it's a Viking/Norse-themed place that is in my world of Greyhawk. And I say my world of Greyhawk, I mean my personal one. I don't obviously own the rights to the world of Greyhawk, but it is... It's very meaningful to me. It was the first thing that started me on the road to Castle Entertainment. It was my love letter to the setting. It's a very personally important project for me, so it's got to be done right. And I really needed I really needed an artist to do it perfectly for me, and Jade really, really captured it for me. Before I go any further with this thought, though, I want to read some of the comments, Chet, about your piece so you can read the feedback you're getting on it. Arsha the Bear mentions, and thank you for joining us tonight, a great way to join the stream. Some of them are going to die. Bloodwild SW is mentioning, with the background, it looks like Morgan Kane is casting a spell on the... Oh, he's talking about my background. Okay. Somebody mentions it better be on a shirt one day. So, and yeah, I think it will end up on a shirt one day. Jade, your piece, the Parliament of Ravens. As I mentioned, it's for Fireland, the upcoming project. You guys will be seeing it in the future. Tell me a little bit about Fireland, or your work on this piece, I should say. Tell me what your feelings were creating it. A little bit of the technique maybe you used.
I first got the prompt from you about this whole setting. It was a very ethereal, mysterious place, and how to get the lighting right, because it's not necessarily light, it's not necessarily dark, but you really don't know if it's dangerous or not. And I wanted the ravens to all be, like the prompt said, calm and watching you. So I really helped with the mist and everything, and hopefully the depth of the trees to really try to capture the difference in the potential of mood upon approaching.
As Jade mentioned, I gave her the prompt for this, and every piece of Fireland, there is a bit of fiction that's written before it. There's a chapter of fiction in which the character that is kind of our narrator is taking us around Fireland, telling us about different places. And she just described almost exactly what was being done there, because the character, as he walks into there, he's walking into a mysterious place. He doesn't know exactly what he's looking at, and yet all he feels is these thousands of eyes of ravens all staring down at him as he's approaching this pond in the background, which seems to be composed out of rainbow. It's a very important place in Fireland. It is literally the Parliament of Ravens. In the conceit of the world of Greyhawk, every animal has an animal lord that is their king, sort of. But ravens are a little bit different. They're a very social animal, and so and they're a very intelligent animal. I decided that they would not have a king. They do have one central king, but their decision is parliamentary, though. The king is more or less the prime minister, but the Parliament of Ravens also has a say in what goes on. Chet, when you look at this piece, tell me what you think.
Well, yeah, there is definitely that mystery as the viewer looking. I like the softness of the background, and then with the shadowed birch trees with all these crow ravens in it, it really adds to this mystery, and it balances out with this rainbow prism of water in the centerpiece there, and I love the misty feel there. It gives you a sense of mystery. I'm not scared. I'm not, I don't know how I'm being treated by the crows. There's no negative, no positive. It's the mystery. You really want to know what the story's all about.
And I think that one of the things that she did in here, first of all, a couple of things that I noticed too when I see this. I agree with you, because I noticed the way that the two central trees frame the way to the pond makes it like a passageway, and I think I think it enhances that feel. But I also think that Jade shows her knowledge of nature in here with the birch trees, because I had one in Chicago when I was growing up outside my house, and that's exactly what they look like. Daniel, what do you think when you see this bad boy right here? Because I know you're a watercolor guy, so
yeah,
break it down for me, buddy.
I like how the first thing I see is I don't see the ravens immediately. I like that. I like how you just think, oh wow, that's a lot of leaves. Wait a second, those are a little too dark. Those birds. And yeah, we've all had that moment where you see you're walking along and you see one or two ravens, one or two, 3 or 4. And then suddenly there's like 1,000 of them in a tree, and you're just like, okay, that's a little creepy.
It is, and I love it. Technique-wise, as a watercolor guy, tell me what you think.
I love how again, you're playing with the whole what's in the foreground, what's in the background using warm and cool colors. And I love how the light in the background is really coming through and illuminating, especially using the yellows around the pond. That really creates a warmth that is filtering through that area right where your eye can see. And I like the rainbow pond. The rainbow pond really kind of sets off the color in the trees where they all kind of grab for the most part. They have that like dark kind of bluish tones to them, but they're not really as vibrant because of the shadows.
As a lighting guy, I remember when I wrote this and I gave it to Jade, I hit the send button and I immediately thought, how in the hell is she going to do the lighting on this piece? Because I thought to myself, this was going to be a miserable piece for her to do lighting-wise. But it was too late for me to take it back.
Yeah, this is one of those where digitally it would be a lot easier to do than traditionally. Traditionally, this would be a tough piece.
I think she did such a great job on this. It's definitely one of my favorite pieces that's ever been done for Castle Entertainment. And now I want to call back another piece that she mentioned, okay? And I'm going to call back the Secret of Mana, the other piece that she sent, which is right here, okay? When I mentioned that I thought that Jade, I could see inspirations in her that maybe she doesn't see. Do you guys see what I see when I look at the background and the leaves and the trees and the line weight that I'm seeing? Or is that just my eye as a layman?
No, I see that.
Daniel,
I'm bouncing back and forth.
Oh, that's fine. Take your time, man. Go ahead.
I said, yeah, I can see it. Yeah.
Yeah, Jade, I see a lot between, and I'm going to pull up again for Twitch for everybody here. Now that they've seen that one, we're going to go back to the other one. And I see it in line weight. I see it in a little bit in the composition about how you use the negative space between the trees to draw someone in. So maybe even yourself that you didn't recognize that influence, I see it very distinctly. So I think that's really cool. Jay, do you look back on this piece and do you if you had to do it again, would you do it any differently? The correct answer is no, by the way, because it's beautiful.
I don't know much that changed except for, just little tiny tweaking things that, it's been a few years since I've done this piece, but now it's still one of my favorite pieces I've ever done. And the original's big. It's a big painting.
And I should also mention, this is the lock screen on my laptop. Okay, Carolina Ravens is. It has been now for many years. Every time I look at this piece, because I look at it a lot because it's a lock screen on my laptop, I've never noticed until Daniel just mentioned it, yellows. And by the way, in case anybody doesn't believe me, there it is. Jade's art is all over my my particular my stuff. You'll notice on my phone, my lock screen is another Jayde Hilliard-Simpson piece for Fenya, the Ragnar's daughter, that she did, which you really can't see very well. But anyway, so Daniel, we're going to go with you now, and the piece that you did for us, which is called From His Cold Dead Hands. It's the cover for that one that he did, and I'm going to flash it up on the screen right now. Okay. For those of you guys who I saw it on Facebook, the other artists, the piece is a dragon fighting a bunch of Nordic warriors. It takes place in the northeast portion of the Flanaess in the world of Greyhawk, in the Ice Barbarian lands. So you've got a very Nordic culture over here, which I know sings probably to Chet and to Jade as well, because she's done so much Norse-inspired stuff for me. Daniel, tell me a little bit about this particular artwork. Some technique that went in on it, your feelings about it, things like that.
I think one of the things that I love is the rule of thirds. I try and approach cover stuff. I tend to always think of the golden rule, and in composition, it's something where I'm always mindful of where to put the focal point, how your eye will play around an image, and I kind of for this one, I treated Dragon's body as being where your eye kind of moved with the dragon. You're ending on, that poor Viking lord that's, really not going to have a good day in a second. Yeah. But no, I also tried to treat the lighting the same way. You see the blues all around the edges and side, whereas the side of the head of the dragon is kind of illuminated with like a kind of golden color, making that pop more.
I saw this piece when I received it. In total transparency, my least favorite color in the world is purple. And so when I saw this cover, the first thing that jumped out at me was the purple on the back of the first warrior, and I was like, oh my god, that totally works. And when I thought to myself, it's a testimony to your control of color, that there's so many separate colors in here, and yet at the same time it all ties together so tightly, and colors that I generally don't like, I love in this piece, like that purple. I was like, wow, that's amazing. Chet, tell me what you think when you see this piece.
Well, yeah, the use of color is phenomenal. Hands down, this is an awesome piece. I love the guy in the foreground and the way it's done. I mean, he's significant. His shape and form and everything. But obviously, the dragon just pops. And there are so many different colors I see in that dragon. And white dragons, as we all know, are one of the hardest things to paint. White, snowy creatures. So his use of all those different colors, bringing that purple from the foreground of that guy into the wings, into the mouth, and then there's that goldenness that traces along the whole body. And I love the movement, how the wings spread out and the feet, and it's turning, and how it's holding that guy who's about to get eaten in half. It's great. There's a lot of movement. There's a lot of little tricks I'm seeing in there with the perspective of the broken poles and stuff that brings you right around. It's a fun composition here.
Every time one of you artists is saying something, I feel like I have to apologize to another one of you for art direction I've given you in the past. Jade, I am so sorry now that I know that about white dragons. I did not realize how hard they were to paint. I made Jade, one of the biggest bad guy on Fireland is a white dragon. And I said, Jay, this one has to be top shelf because it's the main thing. And now I just feel I'm crestfallen. I can't believe that I did that to you. I'm so sorry. Jade, tell me, when you see this bad boy, what do you think? And I know you, as a watercolor artist yourself, I know you do a lot of watercolor. Tell me some of the specifics that jump out of you technique-wise, too.
Man, this is epic. The composition, transition, like others have said, the use of the purple, and then going back on the neck of the dragon. I'm pointing at my screen like y'all can see me. That part of the curved neck of the dragon is blue. So there's almost like an iridescent almost thing going on, but it's the lighting that it's indicating. The use of the purple is very grounding. And then one of my favorite things about this piece, and it's just a personal preference, the architecture in the background where you can see the Gothic arches stuck to the right behind the dragon's wing. That's like an Easter egg to me. I love that sort of detail and stuff like that. It's fantastic.
And Daniel does so much of that in his work. For those of you out there on Twitch, I had to crop this a bit so that you guys could see it properly. I guess you'll just have to buy from his cold dead hands in order to see the entire art. Or join the Patreon so you can see the entire art. So there's a way for you. Thank you, Jade, for letting me slip that in there. I appreciate that. One thing that stands out to me when I look at this, Daniel, is I'm looking at the dude in the front, and I can't see his face, but I can tell he's scared.
Yeah, it's like this.
Yeah, the way that just something about the way that you put him there, and maybe it's the body language or whatever. Maybe it's the fact that you can tell the distance between him and the dragon. I can sense fear, and I think that is super duper cool. Does anybody else get that vibe when they see it?
Oh yeah. Definitely, everybody needs to change their pants in this one.
Oh, for sure, for sure. This is a pants changer for sure. Okay, so we've pretty much covered all of you guys' different the different stuff that you guys have done for me in the past as far as Castle Entertainment. I want to talk a little bit about something else that somebody mentioned in the background over here. Jeff McKay mentions that I love it. No one part of this illustration takes away from any other part, and I think that that's really an important thing about art in general, but in this piece. And my wife Amanda goes, I think this is my absolute favorite of Daniel's pieces. I would say that normally, but I've seen the art that he did for the Cheetah project that's coming up, which we'll talk about a little bit later. So I can't really, and I can't let that out of the bag yet, but don't worry, guys. He's got better for you still coming. As good as this one is, he's really going to knock your socks off with that one. I want to talk a little bit about world building now with you guys and creating a mythos in general. We've talked a little bit earlier in the conversation about how art, it undeniably shapes, global culture, fantasy, and not only just fantasy, but because it informs our dreams, it shapes what becomes reality, like how science fiction does. And the way it shapes RPGs is equally, if not even more profound. So I want to talk about how you guys view artwork in RPGs. I'll start with Jade in this one. When you're looking at a piece of art for an RPG, like we just did over there, the different stuff that all the artists contributed, when you're working on one, first of all, what's your process? Where do you begin? What influences your choices with the degree of that art?
Based on the project where I'm given, I try to look into, and a lot of obviously Fireland draws from Norse inspiration, so there's already historical aspects to start with. Like once I develop that, research it, and do my best to learn accuracy of it, especially art-wise, weapon-wise, clothing, then I can take it and move it forward and add the fantasy elements. And also hope to do so respectfully. So it's not like a caricature.
Sure.
And then I learn about it and then go have fun with it. Just the creation aspect of it.
Daniel, how about you? When you're doing a piece like that, where are you starting? What's your process? What influences your choices?
I'm pretty similar. I'm kind of a research nut, and I have. It's sad that I'm not in my studio right now. I usually, when I'm at my studio, I have a huge library behind me of reference books, of castles, of different weapons from different periods and cultures. So immediately I'll pour through what I have available and try and find what building materials were they used in Viking halls, for instance. What did the architecture actually look like? It's pretty benign, to be honest. And then, what sort of, we like to point at movies, current movies in particular, which really kind of Hollywoodize a lot of these kind of, fantasy elements. And I like to go back to the original stuff, the actual artifacts that have been uncovered from Scandinavia. That's the kind of thing that I like to research.
Personally, Daniel, also, I like to imagine that where you're at right now is actually your normal studio, and you have that rainbow-like color palette behind you. I want to imagine that from now on, that is what your studio looks like.
Yeah.
But yeah, what you're saying, you and Jade are saying, is not unlike what I do as a writer, I'm finding. So that's pretty cool. Chet, tell me about you. Where are you starting?
So I take this description or the brief that I'm given, and I break it down into parts, and I see, well, what am I being asked for here? So there's a subject matter. So I look that subject matter up. I look at pictures of what that is, because sometimes you think you know what something looks like, and then you look at it in a new perspective, and you realize, wow, that's not exactly how I would have pictured that per se. And then from there, what I do is I decide, what is my composition going to be? Obviously, we're telling a story here. We want to have a bit of mystery, but we want to tell what you as the client wants, but also bring in a little bit extra. What extra details can I add to the story? Changes like to the armor, to whatever's going on. What elements can I add around it that don't detract from the story but add to it. So yeah, there's a lot of research, and then there's some small thumbnail sketching usually. Yeah, and like with the character designs I do for you, usually you have a theme going on. Like there was hobbits. This month was dwarves. So they're fun because you can just concentrate on getting a different character design. And actually, from this particular project that you give me month to month, I really get to work on different characters, that character design. What can I do this month that's different? Let's do some funny noses, different ears, things like that. Right. Bring in some of those character designs that sometimes you really can't do in a big battle scene or what have you.
Chet, for those of you guys who have seen Chet's work before or are part of my Patreon, first of all, thank you so much for being a part of my Patreon. You guys are helping me make my dreams come true. But Chet's art that he does for that, he is the master of detail. When I give him a prompt, it's a very high level prompt. Usually I give him a feel for what the character is like so that he can get like a facial expression or something like that. I give him some, this is the weapon they carry, the armor they carry, and I let him go. So for those of you guys who see the characters that he does there, that is very much a Chet Minton thing and not so much a Carlos thing. For example, wait till you guys see these dwarves this month. I did Dwarf Month this month specifically because of Chet. Just so total transparency, because I know he loves dwarves, and he mentioned that to me once. So I said, you know what? I want to throw my artist about and let him draw something he really likes. So we decided to go with dwarves this month, and man, you really brought the goods this month. These guys are going to die when they see that Dorgar.
Yeah, I like dragons.
I know you do, Daniel. And you know what? I was going to mention about you and Jade too. Chet mentioned themes in my art, in my stuff that I do, and one of the things I really love, I remember there was a box set that I got when I was a young man, and most up to that point when I had gotten Dungeons and Dragons materials, they were all like they would feature about maybe 10 different artists or whatever, all contributing. But there was one particular box set called Return to the Tomb of Horrors. Okay, it's much maligned for some of the stuff that's inside of it, even though I think Bruce Cordell did a good job on it. It's just hard to follow a classic. If you look at the top of it, okay, it's got bordering around the pages. And it follows an adventuring party going through that module, like a 12-person adventuring party. The same characters are drawn in different pieces of it, doing different things, parts of it. Daniel, this is going to sound really familiar to you, I'm sure. And to you as well, Jade. I love that aesthetic so much that for Fireland, the stuff that Jade does for me, I established there's got to be a bunch of recurring characters here. So when you do design work on these, please make sure that it's something you don't mind drawing over and over again. And I think I made that explicit in your thing, Daniel, when I mentioned the cheetah thing. I said, you will be drawing these characters again and again, so be ready. I love that unifying theme. Do you, Daniel and Jade, I'll start with you, Jade, when you have something like that to go from as a recurring thing, do you prefer that, or do you generally tend to like, I like to bounce around from character to character, and, I kind of like the variety?
I like to go to the recurring characters. It's like the familiarity and then the exploration of the character. That even my own personal work in my sketchbook, I have like my own characters I revisit from time to time. So that's definitely something I'm comfortable.
Yeah, for anybody who's ever seen Jade's work on like the Changeling things, you'll notice the witch that she goes back to all the time, which is so awesome. I love the different pieces in there and the evolution of that character as you develop her. What about you, Daniel? Do you like the different characters recurring?
I like recurring. I'm one of those. I mean, you know me. I illustrate comic books all the time.
Right.
So I like the storytelling aspect. I like that. When you see that character, you see the evolution over. You get the sequential images. You actually get a bit of comic storytelling in it.
For once, I don't have to apologize to you guys. Yes.
No.
That's awesome. Scottish Jeff McKay mentions that Chet loves dwarves. So, and yeah, I knew that. Like I mentioned, the characters grow with each rendering. They've done things since the last. And if you're going to see some of the stuff that when you see the stuff that Daniel is doing right now for the cheetahs, I noticed in a particular piece that you did, Daniel, one of the characters that recurs between the two, there's a scar there that wasn't there before on the face. I noticed that. I was like, wow. That is attention to detail right there. So I was, yeah, when you guys see this cheetah stuff, you guys are going to die. And that was the whole idea. But when we're talking about these recurring characters and things, I want to talk a little bit about Castle Entertainment now and about what you guys' contributions have been to the brand in specific, because we've seen success largely because of your talent. I mean, yeah, I have the words, but we're a visual creature as humans. And I think anyone, they always tell you, don't judge a book by its cover. But the truth is that a good cover of a book or a good piece of illustration, it adds so much. It just draws you in there and it forms your opinions and the way you see the work in your mind's eye. So when you guys do stuff for me, it not only, it gives my dreams life and breath. So I think that's really... I can't thank you guys enough for that, but how aware are you guys that the contribution of this kind of feel, this thing that when you're contributing to a company, like let's say you're working for myself or for, in your case, Chet Two Kings or Daniel, some of the projects you work for, when you're doing that stuff, how aware are you that you're creating this overarching aesthetic for a company and that you're kind of giving people and you're creating their brand? What do you, Chet? I'll start with you.
At first, when I first started doing freelance work and started getting repeat work and monthly contracts from people like yourself and stuff, I never really, gave it thought ahead of time. But over time, I've noticed, all different people coming forward going, hey, that was awesome. I'm buying this product because of your artwork, or I was really pulled into this whole story by that one piece. That piece you did really helped me understand this story. But let me also say that people forget that it's just not the artist. There's an art director behind it too. So there's a lot of input that you put in as a creative person because you are visualizing what you want and you're communicating it to us. So don't sell yourself short as a visual creator. And we're contributing together in the visual.
I appreciate that, man. I do know this. When Sword Oath came out, I have never seen such a response on Facebook or the inbox for Castle Entertainment was bursting after you showed that off. People were like, they really responded to that piece. Now, Daniel, tell me about your thoughts when you're creating for something. How aware are you that you're helping, that you're actually establishing their brand?
It's interesting. I've worked with a lot of different publishers, and usually with cover work in particular, you mentioned earlier that never judge a book by its cover, but that's what 90% of the time people do.
Right.
I mean, it needs to sell the product.
It does.
And it needs to tell the story in a single image. So it's super important. And it's definitely something that I don't treat lightly.
Jade, what do you think when you're doing something for this? And this is, I think Jade's opinion of this is really salient because as the first person who started this kind of off with me, my first artist, I mean, no one has established my brand as much as you. So what do you think?
It's a huge responsibility and important to make sure that the artwork produced is cohesive with the content and the things, I mean, just for the aesthetics and everything. So it all ties together. So once the people, whether it be the artwork that draws them, which a lot of it is the artwork, it's got to fit the content, be respectful of the content so that it is just overall quality. It's just working hand in hand, like teamwork.
For those of you out there who are watching the show, thanks for tuning in. we're going to be here probably pretty soon. We're about almost at the end of the interview, so if you guys have questions for the panel, for the artists, please don't be shy about piping up with them. I'm sure they'd like to hear your questions or your thoughts about their process and whatever. When you guys are looking at other fantasy products, because I think that I know this for myself, when I read a piece of RPG material, I read it on two levels. I read it for enjoyment, but primarily, and I've always done this ever since I was a kid, really, but especially since I went to college and became a creative writing major, I deconstruct things. I look at them and I want to see the technique. I want to see what, how they're making this. What are they? What kind of tricks are they employing in order to convey what they're trying to get across? An example. Stephen King, when he writes his books, he'll go on and he'll bury something in a lot of narrative. He'll just mention something in the background, and then he'll call it back about 150 pages later and scare the hell out of you with it. That's his technique. That's what he likes to do over there. And what he'll do a lot of times is he'll do that with line repetition. He'll use the exact same phraseology because he knows it'll stick in your subconscious. So I deconstruct things like that, and I'm sure artists do that to some degree too. Daniel, when you're looking at a piece of fantasy art, what makes it effective or not effective to you? What are you looking for? What are the things that make a piece a standout piece for you?
That's a really good question. Because every piece is different. I'm trying to think. There's an artist that I'm really into right now named Jessica S. And I'm pretty sure that you guys know who it is. And he's a Magic the Gathering artist. He does a lot of the Magic cards.
Yeah.
And his work, every piece he posts, I'm just in awe of how he's able to capture movement. Movement's a big deal for me. The piece needs to feel real. There needs to be something where I can put myself in that moment. If there's a suspension of disbelief and I feel like I can't be there, then I feel like I failed somehow.
Okay. Jade, what about you? What are you looking for? What stands out, and what can make or kill a fantasy piece for you?
For me, like what Daniel said, a lot of it is the storytelling aspect. Believable? Does it draw you in? Is the world believable? And then seconding that, the details of the characters, and that ties into the story quite a bit. And I like it when you said something to see it and be like believable in a sense.
Okay, what about you, Chet?
Well, yeah, obviously the story content is, definitely important. How is the story being conveyed? As Dan said, movement is very important. Perspective. Sometimes even a very serene picture where there isn't any movement. How do they use the source of light? How do they use color to embellish, to tell this story? So there's a lot of technical things I look at too on why did they choose these colors? Why are they using these bold colors in the background and then softer, cooler colors in the foreground? Why does it work so well? And so when I look at art, I look at, well, what can I learn from this piece as an artist? So there's that aspect too.
Okay. And yeah, I what you just said is an important portion of what I was trying to say about myself that I somehow neglected to mention. When I'm doing deconstruction of pieces, it's not really to judge them per se. It's more, what can I incorporate from this? What kind of techniques does this guy do well or this woman do well that I can adopt in my own work to make it better? Because I always feel like we're constantly improving. I hope so. I mean, I know that for myself, Casl Entertainment products have been improving ever since I started the company. I mean, hell, there was a point in time with us, the very first products, I didn't even have a cover artist. So, and look at us now. Now I'm doing stuff like Daniel's going to be doing interior artwork for the cheetah thing. And I mean, it just keeps getting better and better. And hopefully you guys are going to see things get better and better. Now, in specific, we talked about what makes or breaks a good piece. I want to tie this conversation back around a little bit because you guys have helped us design the Castle Entertainment aesthetic. Okay? When you're doing a piece for Castle Entertainment, what makes a good Castle Entertainment piece, Chet? What do you know that I'm going to like? What do you think conveys our brand and specifically well?
I think, telling a detailed story, but also leaving a mystery where you're not telling what the story is. You're giving a lead-in aspect that can actually be misleading or just embellish on just a small part of the story where you're just really giving them a hook.
Okay. Jade, what about you? When you're working for me, what do you think conveys us best?
I've got a similar mindset. And I like for the characters in the design work have you can tell them that they've got a story, they're going somewhere, or they've been through some things, or they're going through a journey. And then there's hopefully with reference to the garments that they're wearing to recall back where they've been. Because you've got a few of your characters that do travel, they do adventuring. So I hope to build onto that.
When you guys see Jade's work in Fireland, I think it's about time that I take the cover off of Fireland just a little bit before we go any further and hear Daniel's opinion on this. Fireland's my magnum opus. It's my love letter to gaming. It's my love letter to the world of Greyhawk. It's my love letter to the Gygax family. And I've spared no expense in creating it. There is a Jeff Easley cover that I've done for it. I commissioned it. It's an oil painting that some of you have seen before. There's professional cartography that's inside of it done by Mark Lazzaretti, who did the 4-poster Greyhawk map. Darlene did the calligraphy for it, who, as many of you know, did the calligraphy for the original Greyhawk map. The only place that it really is being let down so far is in the words that I wrote. But besides that, but wait till you guys see what Jade has done for this. Jade has done the interlude pieces in between every chapter, some of which are just stunning. I mean, staggering. There's a piece that she did of orcs that I had in how they're teaching their young. That is just so amazing. It's beyond belief. She's also done all the knot work, the holy symbols for all the gods. She's done the work for all the shields for all the clans. When you guys see this, you're gonna. She's done all the border work for the pages that I'm going to have. This is a piece I really have because it's really the most important project I've ever done, and I couldn't wait. When you guys see this, you guys are gonna die when you see the work that she's done because it is just it's that good. So thank you so much, Jade, for contributing to it, and I can't thank you enough for all the cool stuff that you've done for us.
It's an honor to be a part of the project. It really is.
Daniel, tell me about when you're doing something for Castle Entertainment. What are you thinking? What's the what kind of aesthetic do you think fits our company? What am I gonna love when you're doing stuff specifically for us?
I think wow. I'm similar to Chet, where I feel like if it's cover work in particular, it's got to have that hook. It's got to have that setting the. I'm official, so it's setting the hook. You haven't quite. You're not giving up everything that's in the module. You're giving enough to tease, but at the same time, you're giving the vibe of the module. It has to have whatever the vibe of that particular module is.
Okay.
The tone, that's important.
Okay, that's cool. When you're doing tone work and things like that, and this could be for anybody, any company, not just my own. You're taking artist cue, sure. I mean, cue from the art director, but you're also it's informed by your own stuff as well. Tell me the kind of things that you're doing that you're, that the kind of things that you are wanting to inject. If you have your own personal, room for embellishment.
Well, so one of the things is with tone and setting, a mood. A lot of that is color oriented. color plays a big role in setting those kind of things. And one of the things that with your treatises, that the things that you write for me, the description of what I'm looking for this cover. You don't show me everything in the model. You show me enough to be dangerous,
right?
Because you kind of want to see where I take it.
That's exactly it.
A lot of times, what I do is I'll figure out. Chet mentioned thumbnail sketches, and what I'll do is I'll have 2 or 3 thumbnail sketches, which are little kind of pencil versions of what I want. Where I could see the perspective being. At what point is the viewer going to jump into that story? And a lot of times I'll scrap one immediately, and I'm like, oh, that's terrible. That's too, that's too obvious. It needs to be something that's really going to hit. And a lot of that is also inferred with, some of the things that you're writing. I'm reminded of the cover that we did, with the, it's got sorceress, tree.
Right, that's for When Comes the Witching Hour. Yeah,
there you go. And I love what you described to me. I was like, the image was immediately in my head. And I love that sometimes it just pops in there, and I really don't have to do a whole lot of thumbnailing to figure it out. It honestly just flows.
Yeah, and that piece right over there, I remember when I saw that was one of those pieces where I gasped, because I thought that was just so crazy cool. I mentioned the piece that Jade did for me, and I just shared it with the other artists on there. I feel like I wasn't going to share it because it's a Fireland piece, but I think it would be really cool. I think it would be really cool to share it on the screen with everybody right now. Right over here is what we're looking at. Over here, there's your orcs right over there, and they're teaching the young orcs. This is a shaman that's teaching through pictographs some of their history. I thought that would be a really cool piece to show a little bit of Firelandic culture. I hope you guys dig it. Jade, again, holy crap! What an amazing piece of artwork that was for us. Artists out there, I want to hear before, I'll let the artist herself speak about the piece first. Jade, tell me a little bit about the piece, about what you liked, what you didn't like, what your journey through the creation of it was.
The works for the Fireland world are really fascinating. They're gatherers. Their whole religious system and cultural system is so different than many of the other cultures in the world. So it was really fun to play on how they might dress, what tools they would use to teach. And I pulled in a little bit of Norse influence by having the red drawing on the rock. Mm-hmm. I just wish I had just pushed that little depth of the trees just a little bit more, but that probably could still be revisited. Okay.
Chet, tell me a little bit, when you're looking at this one, what do you think?
Well, I like when I think of orcs, I think of the savagery, barbarians, just dark and almost evil per se. But you're seeing a nurturing factor here, and there's a care here. So the youth are mesmerized by the shaman, and by the way, the shaman's outfit is awesome. I love this piece. The shaman, you can just feel him with his hand raised, telling the story, this heroic, battle scene and how it relates to their mythology. And I love the pictograph. It has a very Nordic style, but it also has more of an orc kind of influence there too at the same time. This is really well done. I really like this piece.
Daniel, tell me what your thoughts are on it.
I love the storytelling. I like that you can see a story happen right there, and I like that it's not the run of the mill. You're not seeing a fighting scene. You're seeing something much more, something that everyone can relate to. I feel like more of that stuff, the candid moments, are the things that they grab people. They stick with it. It's everybody takes a selfie now. So when you draw something where somebody is taking a selfie, so to speak, it's like that is the image that's going to speak to you, because everybody does it.
When I first met Daniel, we knew each other from the comic book art scene, and I was commissioning him to do, pictures of my favorite comic book art. I don't know if you remember the way that my methodology was, but I was like, have them doing something not superhero-y. Have them doing something different than like fighting the Green Goblin or something like that.
Exactly. Something that's I'm telling you, the candid stuff is the stuff that resonates, that everybody will be able to latch.
I'm seeing
the most.
I'm seeing in the chat over here, I've got Tim Connolly's like, I love the washed out mountains in the distance. Jeff is saying, interesting to show what orcs teaching, showing a sense of their history. Mark was talking about what I mentioned to you about the slice of life pieces. He goes, Batman making a hot pocket. No, not necessarily, but I did have an artist of mine when I gave them that prompt. She has Kitty Pryde phasing her hand through a refrigerator to get an apple for Lockheed. So I guess that's the closest thing I've got. But hey, man, she was from 10 miles from my house. What do you want? I'm a Kitty Pryde guy. But anyway, does anybody out there in the audience have anything they want to hit our artists with, our panel of artists with? We had a great chat tonight. I mean, I feel like I've learned a lot about their respect. And to be honest with you, I feel like I learned a lot about art in general tonight from you guys. I learned a lot about as far as being an art director. And for those of you guys out there who commission art, now you know a little bit about what these artists are looking for. How to be a good client is very important, I think. If you really want to, to get the best out of artists, I think being a good client is just as important as having, a great artist doing your work. Because if you don't build that relationship, you don't really have it's going to be hard for you to really get the aesthetic you're looking for. Chet Minton, your top 3 influences as far as artists go. Mark Clover asked this.
Okay,
this is our good friend Mark Clover from the birthplace of gaming, Lake Geneva, Wisconsin. Actually, you're from Chicago, I know, but close enough. Anyway.
Yeah, Brother Mark, awesome. Thank you for being here. From art history, I derive a lot of study from Art Nouveau and Alphonse Mucha, his style of drawing, his line work, ink work. I'm a slave of. I worship him. If I were going to pick, influences, I could be here all day talking about influences.
Right off the top of your head.
Rodney Matthews did a lot of different record covers, different fantasy books back in like the 60s, 70s, and 80s. Definitely an awesome artist. I've spent many hours trying to learn from his pictures. I think you could probably see some influences of my artwork from his. And then a current working artist in role-playing, I would say, is Wayne Reynolds. I love his paintings, his work, just epic work. I'm just so impressed by it.
Fun fact, Fireland's cover was actually, I had Wayne Reynolds lined up to do it. We had an agreement on paper to do it. It fell through because he was doing some other work for it, and he was a little nervous about doing a project that would be tied to Greyhawk, which is Wizards, and he's got that tight relationship with Wizards and Paizo, so he thought maybe it wouldn't be the right move for him. But he's such a great artist. He's such a great guy to work for too, or I should say with. Jade,
very approachable.
Yeah, very much so. Jade, favorite top 3 influences. Go right off the top of your head. Don't even think too hard about it.
Oh man, Amano Ishitaka, which we've already talked about. Naoko Takeuchi, she created Sailor Moon.
Okay. I
love a lot of the whimsical style of her work, and it doesn't really appear, but I'm huge on the magical girl stuff. And then also Mucha.
Okay.
I mean, just the line work and the dramatic color. I've got a book recently, La Pater, his illustrations, which if you haven't had the chance to look at, they're phenomenal.
Awesome. That's a great tip. I don't think I've ever seen that book before. Daniel, yours?
And this is too hard. Da Vinci, Rembrandt, I like classics. I would say Charles Vess is a big influence.
Oh, I love Charles
Arthur
Vess.
Rackham. Arthur Rackham and his fairy tale stuff. I was big into that side of fantasy. I'm also a huge like Sid Mead. I like a lot of the sci-fi stuff as well. A lot of the early sci-fi book covers. Frazetta, I could definitely mention. I don't know. The list could go on and on. The influences are a really tough one for me because I feel like they change.
Yeah, I think so too. Interestingly enough, you guys all mentioned, at least in passing, you guys all mentioned the Nouveau style a little bit. And it may be why I ended up commissioning you. That might be the commonality, is because I love that style too. And for those of you who are interested, my top 3 artistic influences, even though I'm not an artist, are Chet Minton, Jayde Hilliard-Simpson, and Daniel Govar. And also Roger Dean. I love Roger Dean's stuff. He does all
He's one of my favorites.
Stuff. I absolutely love his work.
Oh, yeah.
But
he was robbed by all the stuff on Avatar.
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. In fact, Daniel, you mentioned Vess too. I was silly enough actually to try and commission Vess to do some stuff for me back in the day. And I got an education at that point that I was punching up way above my weight. No,
I've actually bought him dinner before and drinks and stuff. He's
Nice.
really
super cool guy. Yeah, I was more referring to as the price tag. I was talking about the price tag. I was
the price tag is insane.
Yeah, how do I get myself out of this conversation gracefully?
That's really expensive, like really expensive.
Yeah. Another question we're getting from the audience for each of you, and we'll start in the middle with Jade and go from Daniel then to Chet. Is there any subject that you have never done but really want to? And this is going to be awesome for me as a creator because I know I can feed you. And by the way, thanks, Mark Clover. Happy Harryhausen Day. Those of you guys who are following Mark Clover, he's doing a great project on the life of Ray Harryhausen, who did all the cool stop motion work for things like Clash of the Titans, Jason the Argonauts. Follow his page. To help him celebrate it, I wrote a quick mini module for it, and I hope it's homage to the fight scene between Perseus and the Medusa from Clash of the Titans, which is my favorite of the scenes of his. So follow Mark. He's doing great things for the community, great things for gaming, and his podcast is just amazing. So if you guys are into the Twitch scene or anything like that, follow my man. Jade, going back to you now. Okay, is there any subject you've never done but really want to?
Some really cool architectural scenes with the multi-point perspective, if that makes sense. I'm so intimidated by perspective; it's unreal. I can do like more simple stuff. I just need to study it. It's the mathematical part of my brain just won't function with it.
Oh, Jade. Oh, Jade. We need to talk about the next phase of Fireland. For Fireland, I want to do a little capsule with the beginning of each city and have like a little very short thumbnail of what the city looks like. I've got a couple examples from another artist that I want to show you. And if you really want to visit that topic, let's talk. Daniel, talk to me. What do you got?
I would love to work on dragons. Never done them before. I want the challenge. Yeah. Oh man, I don't know. I'm pretty easy. Elves, something.
I'm just reading something. I'm just reading something right now. Go ahead while you're speaking. Go ahead.
I just drew this while we were talking.
Oh my god, I hate you. Look at that.
It's awesome.
Back it up just a little bit so everybody can see the head. Oh my god. That's ridiculous.
That was one of my remarks in the Tuskers.
You're ridiculous, Daniel. You're so talented.
I have to draw 200 of these. So
okay, seriously, what do you want to do that you've never done before?
Elves. I've never done anything with elves. I would love to do something with elves.
Okay, cool. Chet, what do you want to do that you've never done before?
For your work?
No, for anybody's work. For anybody.
I think I've been spoiled. I've had a lot of opportunities to do a lot of different things. I wouldn't mind working in a few other genres, like maybe some more steampunk or science fiction. I don't do a lot of that, but it'd be nice to get my toes wet in some of that. But fantasy is the hardcore stuff for me.
Okay, very cool. Okay, I've got another one from Tim Connolly out there, and I think after this we'll go ahead and we'll wrap up. I'll start with Daniel and go around the horn this time with Chet and then Jade. What are you afraid to draw?
Wow.
Or at least something that gives you a little bit of trepidation.
Let's put it this way: there are commissions that I've been offered that I flat out turned down. It doesn't give me. It's just not. Like people have offered me to do Disney stuff, for instance, and if it's a Disney, like Maleficent or something like that, sure, no problem, I can get behind that. But if it's something like, oh man, I'm trying to think, somebody wanted me to do something with Mickey Mouse, and I'm just, you're hiring the wrong person. It's just not for me. I mean, there are 300 million people out there that, are amazing at drawing Mickey, but I'm not that guy.
I can't believe you didn't draw them a dragon wearing a Mickey Mouse t-shirt or mouse ears or something.
Oh, you should have seen, yeah. Now, that's the thing. I don't know. I just, there's very few things that I would say I'm like, ooh, that's going to be not fun. Yeah, it's rare.
Okay.
I can't think of anything right off the top of my head, but I do say no to stuff like, Mickey Mouse.
Okay. Chet, what are you afraid to draw?
I think sometimes, like, I'm very careful about objectifying women or showing things too sexual that are not relevant to the piece or what have you. Sometimes getting into the anatomy, like showing a completely, scantily clad male or female, sometimes it really just doesn't make sense. So I usually try to avoid projects like that. And plus, it's fun to get into the design of different clothing and armor and things of that nature.
What you have just mentioned is what I would call the Red Sonja line.
Yeah.
Once you go above or below the Red Sonja line, where her design is when you start going into some maybe questionable stuff. Which is, by the way, Jade, when she does art for my female characters, I'm just blown away. I always think it's cool to have females draw female characters because I like to see the way that what they think is important in the aesthetic. And so when you did like Fenya, I was like, wow, man, that was so much better than even I could have imagined. Jade, what are you afraid to draw?
I think it's already because from personal experience how to stress me out is I would for a while I would take commissions of people's vehicles and paint their vehicles, and I wanted to try so hard to technically accurate. Like I'm looking at the paint colors, making sure I have this area of paint to, if it's already not pre-made, I can mix it and make sure it's correct. And then I'm nitpicking the perspective, the wheels, the body lines. I'm like, this body line doesn't line up on this fender. It's already stressing me out. Just talk about it.
Oh, I got one.
Daniel, hit me.
Portraits and babies.
Oh, okay.
Both of them. Portraits are like excruciating. I do them periodically for friends and family, but it's one of those it's like pulling teeth because the details are so, you have to nail them or it just doesn't look like the person. And then
sometimes they give you the worst photos too.
Yeah, and then babies are the other one that's really hard because babies, it's like the absence of detail. So you're it's like every line is so important, and if you get that line wrong, it doesn't look like a baby. It looks like Winston Churchill.
So Dan's next project is a dragon holding a baby, but the baby has to be perfect.
Yeah. And the baby's got to be wearing Mickey Mouse ears or something. No, I would never. This is very cool answers, gang. I really agree. Those were awesome answers. But there's a theme I notice in the answers, and there are things that are very personally important to people. They're babies and portraits. Jade, in your case, someone's vehicle. there are these things that people really really project great importance to. Sexuality, Chet, or their own morality, things like that. There's a sense of that. I think when you start getting into such a personal subject, maybe that's where the Red Sonja line is for that. It's once you cross that, it becomes stressful because you have to nail, like Daniel said, every last detail. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for doing this again. You guys were great guests. I learned a lot, like I said. I judging from the interaction that I'm getting over here on our stream chat, I'm getting way more questions and way more comments than I usually do. So you guys have been very engaging to the crowd. Is there anything that you guys would like to say before you depart, either about a current project or, your thoughts on some of the art or just gaming in particular, or just a personal message? Chet, I'll begin with you.
I really like getting feedback from people on pieces I do, even if it's constructive criticism, things that they don't like, things they think I'm doing too much of, or, details that just look wrong, even anatomy or whatever. I like hearing about it because as an artist, I'm trying to get better and better. And there are things that when you're too close as an artist, you just don't see. Right. So feedback is always great.
Okay. Jade, do you have anything you'd like to say, or any message you'd like to impart to the crowd?
Sorry if y'all hear my 8-year-old screaming. Playing video
He's got a message. He's got a message.
The Changeling Artist Collective, you can find out more about them at changelingartistcollective.com. You can find them on Facebook. They do monthly auctions just about every month, and there is a ton, as you said earlier, of talent there. I mean, it's a great way to get a really fantastic and it's a great guild for me to be a part of, and just meeting the whole network of artists there and everything. It's a lot. I highly recommend everyone check them out.
Okay, cool. Daniel, is there anything you would like to say in parting and telling the crowd about project that you'd like them to follow or anything like that?
Oh man, buy my books. Buy. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm so entrenched in daily sketches and things like that right now. But those two books are kind of my life for the next month at least.
Okay. Well, while everyone was speaking, I went ahead and I threw up the graphics for how you can follow them. Amanda over on Twitch, you guys can see that she threw up all your links over there so people can follow you. I want to tell everybody on my personal message I'd like to impart to everybody is these guys, Chet, Jade, Daniel, they're part of the Castle Entertainment family. And I reached out to all of you guys for a reason. Because I love your art. I love you as people. I think you're great human beings. I hold you in the highest esteem. And I know that out there right now, we're looking at a lot of, there's people out there that are publishers. We're talking about people here who like to commission art for their characters or whatever. Please commission these guys. I can't tell you enough how great they are to work with, how cool you've seen for yourself how awesome the art that they create is. But it's more reasonable than you might think money-wise. Casl Entertainment is all personally funded by myself, and I'm not a rich man. So the fact that I can get art from these guys should tell you how accessible they are. Go ahead and reach out to these people, commission them. Make sure that they will make your projects come to life. In closing, what I would like to say just is that all three of you, you're a part of my life, and thank you for being that. You guys are superhuman beings.
Thank you. We certainly appreciate working with you. I know I speak for myself. You're an awesome guy. You're awesome to work with. You and your wife. I always enjoy opening up your messages and seeing what's coming next.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks so much, guys, and just stick around on Zoom here for a second after we sign off, so I can say my goodbyes to you. But for those of you who watched the show tonight, thank you very much for tuning in, and we're going to sign off now. hope you guys found it as interesting and as instructional as I did. And we'll be doing this again in next month, and I'll have a new guest for you and somebody for you guys to really enjoy as well. So have a good night, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah.
Fireland gets mentioned by Archer the Bear out there. That's awesome.